tired.
I woke up not feeling good this morning. I don't know where I took me some Tylenol.
You need gummy?
I wasn't ready to feel nothing at all.
I don't have any benefit.
Michael do.
Does he?
Very do. What's going on over there at the commissioner's court?
I don't know what's going on. They'll probably be doing that for another hour.
You can probably make it over there.
216, is that what you said? 214 people signed up to speak, so they're giving them 60 seconds each, 1 minute.
Oh, wow.
But that's still,
That's the
3.5 hours. And they started at 10.
I know. Is it gray or white? Is it the
No,
I mean, that's a difference without, a distinction without a difference. You know what I mean?
right.
Okay, council, I'm going to call us to order. It is just about 1:30. We'll call our work session to order and immediately turn it over to Jay Chapa.
Good afternoon. We're going to start off with organizational updates today. And actually, I'm going to start with Councilwoman Hill, who would like to recognize the group.
Yes, Dr. Wittenberg, will you come up with Neil Johnson, Toby Owen, and the entire Upspire crew that's here today? While y'all are coming up here, I want to start off and say thank you so much for all the work that you do every day. Cody, I think you have a couple slides to go through, but before they get started, y'all have an incredibly difficult job. You have to balance human dignity with public safety and taking care of the homeless camps. It's not a crime to be homeless in Fort Worth, but illegal camping is. And to be able to take care of people, their belongings, and connect with them on a very human level is really hard to do every day. And I just want to say thank you for all that you do in keeping Fort Worth clean and taking care of our homeless population. So Cody, I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you for just a few minutes today to recognize these great team members. We have a few slides to go through just to show the impact that it takes to create and maintain a clean and attractive city. Just a few slides for reference. You can see that there is a lot of work that goes into working to collect these items and move them away to restore the clean, attractive city that we're trying to create. And it's all because of the great work of the team you see before you. Today we have our nuisance abatement team within Environmental Services, as well as our East Lancaster Upspire crew who dedicates 5 days a week to keep that corridor clean. And we just want to take a few minutes to recognize and celebrate their work today. Thank you. So if you guys want to turn around and take a quick picture, we'll do that right quick. And if you guys want to join us, that's certainly fine.
Yeah, sure, let's do that. Council, let's join them, please.
Okay. And then I have a question I want to ask. Okay.
Dr. Davis. Oh, hi. I am new, and I'm sure that all these other council members know all the great things that you all are doing, but can you quickly tell me how you measure the success of Upspire, and what do you think of some of your most meaningful outcomes in our community?
Thank you, Councilwoman Peoples, for that question. Good morning, or excuse me, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Daryl Davis. I have the privilege of serving as Vice President of Workforce and Career Development for Upspire. Frankly, we are able to measure success ultimately by the way that we're able to transition individuals from homelessness to homes.
Okay.
And since the inception of Upspire, we are currently knocking on the door of almost 400 individuals in our community, neighbors in our community who were once homeless, who are now in permanent places of living. And so that's one of the major measures that we have. But even beyond that, one of the things that's probably more intangible is really seeing the pride that many of our employees, many of our crew members, now we're totaling over 200 individuals that work at Upspire, but seeing the hope and the dignity that is restored by them simply working every day. And over half of those individuals that work at Upspire are through our partnerships and collaboration with the City of Fort Worth. So we are so grateful for being able to continue to work with the City of Fort Worth.
Wow. Well, that is a great story. And having volunteered to work with the homeless, I know that is such a meaningful move when they move from homeless to house. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Martinez and Toby Owen, I see you hiding back there. It's great to see you as CEO of Presbyterian Night Shelter. We're incredibly thankful for your long-term relationship with the City of Fort Worth. Councilor Martinez.
I just wanted to thank you, Dr. Wittenberg and Toby and the entire environmental team and Upspire team. We, of course, have many calls in about encampments in District 11, and the majority of those are in the right-of-way, so they really do get cleaned up really quickly, and so we like to communicate to the residents of D11 and Fort Worth, just as long as they're reporting, those do get cleaned up pretty quickly, and that they're not on private property, because I know that takes probably a little bit over a week. So just thank you for all that you do, all the great work that you're doing. We really appreciate you.
Yeah. Cody, if you don't mind, I'll circle on council members. At a high level, what's your statistics in just the last year have looked like on the litter abatement piece?
Absolutely. So we're currently at roughly 20 million pounds of litter removed from our community every single year. And in a few minutes, there's an IR that also speaks that we're on track to do that again. And it's all because of the great men and women and all the amazing work that they do. So thank you for that.
We're very thankful. Councilor Nettles.
Yes, thank you. I just want to kind of give a couple of kudos. I really appreciate the work that Upspire PNS is doing and Cody, you guys are doing in District 8 on Lancaster. There's so much talk around what's not happening and not enough talk about what is happening. And so I think as we're moving into this new phase of Fort Worth of trying to tell our story of what we are doing in the historic part of District 8. Also, and how the City of Fort Worth can, I know we're already partnering, but if you're talking about getting unhoused to house, how the City of Fort Worth can also partner with making sure housing is available, or such as providing dollars towards to make sure that we are making up the gap where there's maybe some gaps with some of our people part of Upspire trying to get into those homes, apartments, or places to live. So thank you again for the work that you guys are doing, and hopefully we can continue to work further in the future. Thank you, Macy, for having them to come.
Councilman Williams.
Thank you, Macy, for having this presentation. I really appreciate it. Dr. Wittenberg, Toby, Mr. Davis, thank y'all so much for the work that y'all leading. Know that this council has made big-time investments in expanding this program, and obviously it was worth an endeavor, not just for keeping our environment clean and sustainable for generations to come, and not just for the programs that y'all are facilitating, but most importantly for me at least, for the people we're walking alongside, co-suffering with people who have experienced really hard times, and we're there with them in the trenches and investing in them and walking alongside them as they pick up their life from a really hard time. And so that's what makes Fort Worth special. Programs like these, investing in the people of Fort Worth, and us being good neighbors to one another in this regard. So thank you for your leadership and your vision. This is absolutely incredible work.
Any other questions or comments from council? Toby, please.
I had just a couple of comments. First off, thank you, Councilwoman Hill, for making this happen and your advocacy in the area to make it definitely improvements. I appreciate that. And secondly, I'd like to thank this council, along with the previous Mayor Betsy Price, particularly at the very beginning, and then to you, Mayor Parker. I've said this once before, but I really cannot emphasize this enough. I really try to keep tabs on what the homeless service providers are doing across the country, and there is no other example, without fail, of a private city and public partnership between a city and a homeless service provider really providing a solution, which is employment. There is no other place across this country that is doing it to the level of the city of Fort Worth and the Presbyterian Night Shelter. So thank you for that very, very much. It really is under the leadership and the emphasis to see this happening and being impactful. And then my third comment, we're missing, there's 3 legs to this stool. We're missing one of them, and that is the HOPE team with the Fort Worth Police Department. And I just wanted to make sure that they get the recognition because they are a tremendous part of what's going on. So thanks to them as well.
Thank you, Toby. Okay, Jay, you can move to our next presentation. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you to Daryl and Toby.
So next I'll be calling up Cody Wittenberg, Dr. Wittenberg, to make a staff announcement.
Absolutely. So I'm super excited today to also announce our new Assistant Environmental Services Director, Pam Rambo-Sexton. With over 23 years of experience and the last 15 dedicated to the city of Fort Worth, Pam brings a wealth of knowledge. She's going to be overseeing our business services division, so our budget, our finance, planning, data analytics, capital planning, and long range. And we're so excited to have her on board. And I just want to give her a few minutes to say hello. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Parker, members of the City Council, City Manager Chapa. It is a thrill to have been chosen by Cody to serve Fort Worth in this capacity as the Assistant Director of Environmental Services, because I am a Fort Worth girl, born and raised. I graduated from Eastern Hills High School. I was raised by 2 long-term public servants for the Fort Worth ISD. My mom spent most of her career at Eastern Hills, and then my daddy was Bob Hughes #2 at Dunbar with the Flying Wildcats. Oh. So when I knew that public service was also my calling and that I wanted to do it in local government, the only place I could think to do that would be to come home and do it here. So I want to thank everybody in this community who's invested in me, in this organization, all the individuals, and I'm here to give back because for me it will always be Fort Worth it.
Congratulations.
Those are all our employee recognitions. I'll move straight into the informal reports unless there's anything else. We have a litany of informal reports with the council break next month. Staff's trying to get these all in. First is 2025 mosquito surveillance program. And Wendy Turpin is here to answer any questions.
I just have one question for Wendy, and I'll ask it while you're headed up. Do we provide any sort of mosquito, like DEET pellets or for our residents that are in proximity to any positive testing sites?
So for our positive testing sites, what we have working out with Tarrant County Public Health Department is some free larvicide dunks that will be available. We've yet to receive them from Tarrant County, but they have been promised to us. So hopefully we'll have them by July, which is normally when we get the bulk of our positive mosquitoes, and we'll have that for them. And it'll also come with directions on how to break them up so that they can use one pellet all over their yard, so it's very effective.
Okay, and then for those that aren't maybe necessarily in proximity to positive testing sites, but we talked a lot about roads today, and there are some roads that like to hold water and become kind of mosquito breeding grounds over the summer. Can our residents pick up those dunks? Is that what they're called? Is that what you?
Yeah, yard dunks,
okay.
Yes. So the number one thing I would have them do is turn in where that pothole is to our 1, 2, 3, number so that we can get that filled in. But then also, yes, they can get dunks from us. They are free, and when I have them, I'll make sure that we'll send out the email and let y'all know that we have them. And then we'll also advertise on our website and through our social media that we have those available for the residents for free.
Any other questions, Councilmember Larson?
Really just a statement on this. One, keep up the great work, but two, can we just make sure that on any of the testing sites, we're not using residential addresses? I know recently in District 4, we had an issue where a residential address was used for a testing site, and because of that, now it's gone to risk management for possible damages, even though the testing site wasn't actually at his house, it was just in the vicinity, but it was used, so we had to retract the address and putting out a public apology, and it's now affected his rental capacity. So I just ask that we make sure we're not putting residential addresses on those.
That has been fixed and will remain fixed forever in future.
Thank God. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy. Next, we have the mid-year litter control update, and Dr. Wittenberg is here to answer any questions regarding this.
Questions from council for Cody?
Next, an IR on the amendments to Chapter 16, Health and Sanitation, and Wendy Turpin is still here.
No questions?
Okay, the next is the economic development update for the first 2 quarters of 2025. Ori Fernandez, Assistant Economic Development Director, is here to answer any questions. Okay, the next is a report on emergency medical services waiver policies. Reggie and his crew, as well as Laws, here to answer any questions
I
regarding.
have one question.
Councilmember Beck?
And it's not necessarily a waiver, but it's within the same realm. And I know I've received a ton of questions about it as we've moved across the city talking about the transition. And that is currently MedStar has a program where you can become a member to help reduce the cost if you're a frequent flyer. And so I know a lot of our senior citizens take advantage of that program. Will that program still be in existence as Fort Worth takes over MedStar operations?
Yeah, the subscription program, yes, it'll still be in existence.
And will there be any substantive changes to that program?
Currently, I'm not aware of any right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Nope.
Just one, Mayor.
Councilmember Flores?
Can I get you to come back to the podium, sir? Somewhat of a related note on that, and I've talked to Chief Davis about this. And while on the MedStar board, also had discussions of what would be coming up. MedStar expended a lot of resources, financial resources, to provide health care for our indigent and homeless folks, right? Calling 911, getting an ambulance there was their default health care plan, right? Financially, that's not sustainable. So I'd like to know going forward, I don't have to have a complete answer now, Chief, you may want to give some remarks towards that. Now with an integrated EMS system, how are we going to address that? One of the suggestions that we talked about prior was getting maybe perhaps more involvement from outfits like JPS, have clinics in key areas like along East Lancaster corridor to maybe offer not just more services, but maybe expanded hours to cover more of that need. So just kind of want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'll let you take that. Thanks.
Councilmember, thank you for your question. Assistant City Manager Johnson has asked that we get together. When I say we, Chief Aldridge, myself, Tara, Bethany, we sit down and we talk about what that looks like to specifically begin digging into the issues that you've just spoken about and provide him some alternatives to speak to leadership and council about regarding the 26 budget requests. So we have a meeting again on Friday, and I met with my team this morning and asked them to put placeholders into our budget presentation, which is scheduled for next week. And we believe, and I don't want to speak for Chief, but I do believe that we have a couple ideas and thoughts of things that are already existing between the city and the county that we can offer to build off of that I think you might find palatable.
Great. It's good to hear. Thank you, Chief.
Chief, I had a quick question. Thank you. if you're not familiar or have a relationship with the Healing Shepherd Clinic on East Lancaster, they're a separate 501c3 I think, B underneath UGM. But this is exactly what they're set up for, is to kind of be that net to help catch the homeless that don't need to be, it's not an emergency situation. They should not be calling 911 or using MedStar, but they can mitigate their issues right there on the spot or connect them with JPS. So if you don't have a relationship with them, I'm so happy to connect the two of you.
I would value anything like that you are willing to help us connect, because that's the one very positive thing about putting us all together as MedStar and the fire department, is that we'll all be in the same place working on the same issues with one direction and leadership. And I failed to mention, and I think it's important that I mentioned it before your session today, I also spoke to Dr. Jarvis, who is now part of the city as leadership in the city here, about how we could provide other services with other level of providers that have different levels of expertise specifically in these areas, and work alongside the community that's already working so hard to try to do it, but make sure that we're feeding off of each other and moving the conversation forward instead of doing our own things individually. So
exactly.
That's our goal.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Chief?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next item up is the update on MedStar Transitional Medical Services, Medicaid and Medicare billing. And again, our finance folks and law are here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Reggie? Nope, keep going.
All right, next is an overview of HIPAA policies and notice of private practices. And Taylor Paris is Assistant City Attorney, here to answer any questions. Okay, the next one is a participation in the National Emergency Medical Services Research Network. Dr. Jarvis is here to answer any questions.
Yeah, Councilmember Flores?
Yes, I'd like to call Dr. Jarvis up to the podium to introduce himself and also elaborate further on the contents of this IR, please.
And I should mention all these IRs are tied to future city council action that will be coming up this month.
Howdy, y'all.
Hi there.
So thank you for the question and for asking about this opportunity. So my name is Jeff Jarvis. I'm an EMS physician. I was the medical director for MedStar, and now, thank you all very much, have the opportunity to serve as the MedStar or the medical director for this new system. One of the opportunities that presented itself was some researchers from the University of Pittsburgh reached out to me early in the year and said they wanted to enroll Fort Worth as what's called a site in a multi-center study. And they wanted us to participate in their research network. The research network is called LITES, L-I-T-E-S, that stands for something. And the acronyms get very tortured. So the LITES network is designed around trauma research. It's funded by the DoD. And the idea is they generate multiple studies. The specific study they're asking us to participate in is called the PAIN study. It's a study looking at two medications, FDA-approved medications, very commonly used for pain. As a matter of fact, we use both of these medications in our system now. And what we don't know is how well they work in comparison to each other. So the study they're asking us to participate in will help compare those two drugs and identify which of them works best with fewest side effects. And again, that's called the PAIN study. Because this is a study of patients who have undergone significant trauma, they have to be a trauma patient and they have to be exhibiting vital signs suggestive of shock. They may not be able to fully understand the process of informed consent. So they may not be able to understand the risks and benefits of enrolling in a trial like this. So what the federal regulations around research do is talk about something called exception from informed consent, or EFIC. And the idea there is if patients don't have the ability to object to being involved or enrolled in the study, they have a process for allowing the community to consult in the process. So that's called community consultation, and the idea is that multiple community groups would have the opportunity to hear about the study, provide feedback about the study, and then individual well, they wouldn't be patients at that time. Individuals would have the opportunity to opt out of the study. So that's a general concept that applies to all research projects. So the other thing about this is that I mentioned it was funded. This is a funded study. So the expenses would be reimbursed for the fire department, for OMD, and we would be doing this in conjunction with our partners at the JPS Trauma Center.
Any other questions for Dr. Jarvis?
Yes, as you were talking, I was thinking about the Tuskegee study, and I was thinking, so how does that work if a patient is not able to opt in? So tell me about the community
Yes, ma'am.
piece and how do you pick those patients?
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for bringing up the Tuskegee study. That was one of the key elements that led to the development of these regulations, and they are specifically designed for vulnerable populations. So right off the bat, any study that is operated under exception from informed consent excludes several classes of patients. So pregnant women and prisoners, those are automatically excluded. Children are also excluded. There are some studies that enroll them if you have to be looking at children. This is not one of those studies. So pediatric patients are excluded. Patients have the opportunity to say, I don't want to be a part of the study. The classic way of doing that is with a, I'm trying to remember the exact verbiage, I think it's no pain study. It's a bracelet that says, I don't want to be a part of the study. And in addition to that, family members, or if the patient can speak for themselves, they have the opportunity to exclude themselves. And then the final part of that is, let's be optimistic, we'll get them to a trauma center. They start to recover as soon as they have the ability to speak for themselves. If they say they don't want to participate, they won't participate, and their data will not be used.
Any other questions for Dr. Jarvis?
Just one. Thanks
sir.
again, Dr. Jarvis. Fentanyl is an opioid, ketamine isn't. Efficacy, I mean, generally speaking, in layperson's terms, one over the other.
Yes, sir, and thank you. I failed to mention the two drugs that are being studied. That's kind of important. Fentanyl and a drug called ketamine. Both of these are FDA approved. Both of them are effective pain medications, and they've been approved and shown their effectiveness in multiple trials comparing them to placebo or to other medications. Those are the two most commonly used pain medicines in EMS. We've just never done a head-to-head trial. Fentanyl, there are two things I want to say about both drugs. Fentanyl gets a lot of PR, very bad PR, that I think is deserved, but that type of fentanyl is illegal fentanyl. That's unregulated. We have no idea what's in it, and it's being used illicitly. That's not the medical grade fentanyl that we use in EMS and we use daily in the hospital. Ketamine also has multiple uses, also is a drug of abuse, but also has been proven to be very effective at a multitude of uses. The one we're using right now or talking about right now is for pain. Both of them are safe medications. There's no perfectly safe medication, but the major side effects are well under 2% for both of these medications.
Thanks.
Thank you for the question.
Any other questions? Dr. Jarvis, I was with Nim Kidd, our Texas Department of Emergency Management, and his wife Emily, and they both said that we have one of the best medical directors in the country. So congratulations. We're very thankful you're a part of the City of Fort Worth team.
I appreciate that.
Working with you. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next IR is flock cameras installed in the right-of-way, and Chief Aldridge is here to answer any questions, along with Michael Owen from our Transportation Public Works Department.
Councilmember Beck?
Yes, thank you. And I actually already received the clarification from our city attorney, but I thought it was important because it's not included in the IR so that we have a little bit of clarification to our residents about how these operate. So we are allowing these private cameras in public right-of-ways with an agreement, correct? And yes, Chief, yes? Okay.
That is correct.
And then for those cameras that we're allowing in the public right-of-way, the private cameras in the public right-of-way, who has access to that data that is collected from those cameras?
So all the camera feeds feed into our real-time crime center, and we are the ones that have access to the data.
Okay. in our, the neighborhood associations or the private businesses or the HOAs, do they have access to that data?
So they can request access to the data, and we have a policy that's in place, but we're going to have a point of contact for each one of the HOAs, whether it's a security director for the HOA or one of the board members. And just for clarification, anybody can do an open records request for any of our cameras. This is a way, because it is their camera, if they give us a reason and the reason seems reasonable for it. For example, let's say there was an accident on private property and they wanted to figure out that who maybe the assailant was, or if maybe some of their property was damaged, they didn't make a police report. We would then bypass the open records because it is their camera, and we would give them access to that information.
Would open records allows us an opportunity to catalog all those requests, and so my request to you would be, I get why we're bypassing that open records request for them, but can we keep a substantive log of when that is, just for?
That's easy to do. Because the request comes into the Real-Time Crime Center, it goes to the Real-Time Crime Center sergeant and lieutenant, so it's not that big of a deal for us to keep a log of who requested the information.
And do these have license plate reader
Yes.
capability? Okay, thank you. And will residents have access to that data specifically? Like, say if there was an accident and they requested the information, would
Yes.
you give them the license plate information as well?
They would get the copy of the video, which has the license plate information on it, yes.
But it wouldn't have the underlying who it
No.
belongs to and all that?
Would
Okay.
not.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Our next IR is Historic and Cultural Landmarks Commission composition, and Laura Lee Willett's here to answer any questions.
Councilmember Beck?
Welcome back. Hey, Laura Lee, thank you. The only.
Lorelei.
Sorry, what did I say, Laura Lee? Sorry, Lorelei.
No worries.
I think Jay did that, and
I
I'm
did that.
I'm blaming Jay for that one.
Got you.
Okay, thank you for doing this, for going back out and doing this after our last conversation. And I just want to make sure that, that I'm reading this correctly. When we say that someone has demonstrated an interest and show competence and knowledge in historic preservation, do we have any markers to kind of rate that against?
Sure. So when they fill out the application with the city secretary's office, they do have a section where they can say why they're interested, basically. And we take a look and say, okay, you're a community leader, you teach history, you have roots in the city of Fort Worth that go back, a long way. So, so that's pretty much where we do that. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. So as we discussed earlier, I'd like to see that requirement, instead of 6, go to all 11. Charlie, you got to get yours filled. I didn't ask him to call you out on this IR, but I appreciate that they did that. I'm just kidding. But the one thing that I would ask is, because it's left up to us to read these, as they come through the city secretary's office, we get the resumes, we get the little statements of interest, and then it's up to us to determine if they meet that demonstrated interest or competence and knowledge. And so I'd ask that, in addition to making the requirement all 11, that you work with the city secretary's department to figure out a workflow or some sort of flow. It would be my preference that Historic Landmark Commission staff would look at those resumes before they come to us, because they have that additional requirement, and get an up or down on whether or not it meets the standard of demonstrated interest and competent knowledge.
I see.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lorelei.
Thank you.
Learning. His next one up is historical training and travel-related expenses, and Christiane Simmons is here to answer any questions.
Questions from Councilmember Hill?
Thank you, Christiane. And I know this is a lot of work to put this together. I'm going to ask for a redo on it, and here's why. I think it discounts, when you put them together, travel and training, excuse me, I think it discounts the amount of high-level, detailed training that some of our departments need, like police, fire, IT. I mean, those are things that they really do need to be on the cusp of cutting edge on what's happening in their industry. So that first. Two, and I think I had some questions about how things are allocated. So city manager, 2021 through, well, 2021 was 65,000, 2022 through 2024, those numbers are extremely high, and it dips back down to 2025. And then if you look at mayor and city council, it looks like those monies were reallocated or how things were shuffled around in the budget. Can you walk me through that so I can better understand how spending works?
So yes, related to your first comment, you are right that in our accounting system, the same account code is used for travel and training and workshops. So it is all sort of commingled. To break it apart as a manual effort, it takes studying every form and sort of segregating out training versus travel. So we can talk about a way in which to meet your requests in a timely manner over the summer. City manager's office, you're right. This, when you see fluctuations like that, it's often because of like organizational restructuring that happens with a cost center or two. So for example, from fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25, the difference you see in that dip in city management, remember that we actually budget city management and mayor and council all together in one department. For the purpose of this IR, they're broken out, but really they roll up together. So if you add them up, you'll probably see they net a little bit more closely. But for the fiscal year 25 budget, the city manager's office, we moved out costs like the TML, NLC, some of those conferences that council members occur out to the mayor and council's budget. It's actually in the mayor's cost center. And so it's pulled down from mayor and council. Another thing that came out of the city manager's office in fiscal year 25 is the legislative affairs division. So you'll see a bump in the city attorney's office for that purpose as well. So those are just organizational kind of restructures that, that make those numbers shift from budget to actuals.
I guess as I'm thinking of budgeting and I'm looking at $4.5 million we're spending on travel and programs and training, I know it's a lot of work, but breaking it out or at least giving us some kind of idea on how much we're actually spending on training, how much we're actually spending on travel, I think just to help us understand where we're spending $4.5 million.
Yeah, we can talk about that and maybe through a budget work session in August or something. I agree. I would posit that I can say this like substantively, but without the detail. The large majority of that $4.5 million is training and workshops, both internally and externally, and that's everything from a spectrum of like CDL licensure, continuing education that's required for attorneys and planners and lawyers and engineers, and then some of it, is career development or going to present about the department or the city and other places. We can certainly try to take a stab at what that percentage breakdown looks like.
That's why I said in the beginning, I think we did a disservice just putting it on one page without a whole lot of detail because I know how much we do need to have trainings for those special departments.
Yes, yeah. It is, yes, this is a summary. We thought that question might come up. It's a pretty, like I said, a big manual effort, not an impossible effort. So we'll take a look at the best way to present that.
That's Rebecca.
Yeah, Macy actually expressed the same concern I had because when you look at some of these numbers, it does kind of make your head spin per department, but then if you logically follow that through to what departments those are and the type of training, I think I can make that logical leap, but I'd like not to have to make that logical leap and know that the data bears it out. Also, when you come back with that IR, $190,000 budgeted for travel for 11 people is more than the budget allotted for 13 of our other whole departments. And so I really want to know what this $190,000 for 11 of us to travel for a year is expected to entail, because that seems like a pretty significant number. And so, if
as the new city manager, I had my eye on that through the budget process.
Thank you.
Where are our district directors in that? Are they included in that?
Yes, in the mayor and council forecast.
And so I'd like to know how that breaks down by council as well.
Okay.
By district, specifically council district.
Any other questions, council? Sorry, it's not you, it's me. Coffee this afternoon, Christine.
No problem.
Thank you.
With those funds, we could probably move them to extra staff. I know we have, a number of constituent-related service calls, or we could put it in the budget to do good work in our district. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be restricted to travel. So, in the upcoming budget, it may be worth thinking about that.
I was thinking PAYGO, but.
Pay-go. Every dollar helps. Okay.
Thank you, Christiane.
Next IR is Homeless Strategies Request for Proposals.
Let me just get an overview of that real quick.
Tara's coming.
Sorry, Tara's coming.
Hi, Tara.
Hi. Tara Perez with Homeless Strategies. So last fall, our office conducted about 300 interviews with stakeholders, largely in 4 different groups. One was city folks, including our elected officials and department heads and departments very involved in the camp cleanup process. Then we had folks in our homeless system and the nonprofits. We had community groups such as churches or neighborhood associations or Fort Worth ISD, people who touch homelessness, but that's not their primary focus, and then also people experiencing homelessness. And through these interviews, we were looking at what has changed the past few years. COVID changed a lot of things, really impacted our system. So we were looking at what are the needs and gaps and how can the city best support our system. We may not be the primary funder of homelessness services, but we are a major funder. And so overwhelmingly, we heard that the city should be focusing more resources on our unsheltered population, that was a big concern. And so we shifted some of our programming to reflect that priority. And so then we did the request for proposals. Some of the programs we just did a preference for people who are unsheltered, but the biggest change we made is we expanded our outreach, which is to connect unsheltered folks to housing and services.
Tara, how does this correlate with our pilot program? Is this a result of the pilot program?
No. The pilot program started earlier. It started in May of last year. We already knew that there was an issue with the intersection of unsheltered homelessness and severe mental illness. So that was on our that's been on our radar for a long time. And so that pilot was put together just to address that. And that was just to address 7 target areas in the city that we saw had really high camping complaints.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you for everything that you do every day. We appreciate it.
I got a couple questions.
Yes. Councilman.
Yes, the dollar amount that that I'm looking at, is this included what the city of Fort Worth is just putting in, or this is Tarrant County Homeless Coalition?
This is City of Fort Worth.
Okay, and so when you articulated that you move dollars more towards connecting individuals to services, what page would that be on? I'm sorry to be asking.
So on the IR,
yes,
under the refocus request for proposals, that's where we mention which programs that we didn't include in the RFP in order to devote more resources to the unsheltered.
Okay, and just off the top of your head, can you just name off some of those organizations that you're connecting the unsheltered to?
Okay, the organization that we're recommending funding for street outreach is DRC Solutions. We have many outreach providers in the community, but in the scoring process, they scored the highest. One of the things that we're really looking at as performance measures is outreach, connecting with people, and helping them get some of the things they need. For example, identification documents, regular check-ins to housing. If they have a disability, is the outreach worker helping them get a verification of disability? Because there's a lot of documentation that can be done to help people be eligible for housing. And that's what we really want our outreach to focus on, as well as have that emphasis on diversion. There are folks that come through Fort Worth that are stuck here, and they have family elsewhere. And so how can we quickly connect them with a bus pass, bus ticket, and get them reconnected with family? And so that's what we're really wanting outreach to focus on.
Okay, thank you for your work. And so I think initially when we started, well, when I came in, I think the budget now is up to 3.8. 3.8. Has that increased it the last 4 years?
It has. And I will point out that that 3.8, it does not include 2 other programs that will be coming in a different MNC, which is the High Impact Program.
Okay.
My understanding is council requested a presentation on the 17th on that. And so there will be an MNC on the 24th for the High Impact Program. And then also we needed a little more time on to award our cold weather sheltering contract. And so the 3.8 is not the total. It's closer to 6 million.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. That's good to hear. We are really putting dollars towards our homeless issue. I had initially asked, not specifically to you or directly in a work session, but a couple of weeks ago, kind of articulated an ambassador program as it relates to moving our homeless from out of the neighborhoods that are adjacent to Lancaster. And with your outreach team with DRC Solutions, do they provide such a service of moving individuals back to services locations instead of in neighborhood streets and businesses that they're kind of influxing into the historic South Side?
So for historic South Side in particular, in meeting with the neighborhood association, they had requested some outreach very specific to their area. And so we did divert one DRC outreach worker to be connected to the neighborhood police officer in that area to just learn and understand, like, what are the attractors of homelessness, just kind of get a lay of the land. Is this people who are here for a long time? Is this very transient population? And so she was able to do that for a few weeks and collect that data. But to answer your question, outreach doesn't have the role of moving people. A lot of times they're working hand in hand with law enforcement. And so as you know, law enforcement may say to them, you know, this is public property or this is someone else's private property. You cannot be here. Please go to the shelter. And outreach also does offer people the shelter, but they don't tell people, like, get out of the neighborhood.
Okay, well, and I know we're not at the IR part, future agenda item, but I would like to see something with a dollar amount that focus on some type of ambassadorship of moving people out of the neighborhood into, and that may come from the HOPE team, I'm not sure, or even from our police officers. But in this last election cycle, it was a very brutal beating about our homeless population in our neighborhoods. And I think they have a right to have that concern. And so our neighborhood associations, Historic Southside being one, that's very vocal of just even the Evans Plaza, people sleeping on the benches. And we added a rail in the middle to kind of prevent that. So we've done some measurements, but what else can we do with that corridor of Lancaster to Morningside, if you can help us with that?
Okay, I can certainly follow up. I think there have been some connections connecting that to the Evans Rosedale project also, and
Sure.
thinking about opportunities there.
Yep, and they're in agreement of putting dollars towards. I know Royal Capital is and a couple of other organizations around there that's coming online. Thank you so much for your work.
Any other questions for Tara? Thank you, Tara. Jeanette, did you have a question? Councilor, okay. Okay.
Okay, the next item is Pathways to Removing Obstacles to Housing, pro-housing grants. And Casey Best is here to answer any questions.
Councilor Martinez, do you have questions on this one? No, it's the next one. Okay, Councilor Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, Casey. Thank you. I'm looking at the list, the retrofitting the suburban malls. Which 3 malls are identified?
So we are still looking at them, but obviously some of the that we have are the Hewlin Mall area, LeGrand Plaza, And the idea, we have several areas that we can look at in the city. As part of that plan, we would want to work with the property owner first to make sure they have an interest in participating in this program. And then if they do express an interest, then we would move forward. But we don't want to presume that this is something that they would be involved in.
Okay, that was my question, if they have already been approached or if they ever approached the city and had that work, but no one's been approached yet.
Not at this time yet. We wanted to make sure it was approved in the action plan, and then if it is, it would be a two-phased approach. The first stage would be to make the outreach to the property owners, and then the second phase is once we identify a property owner who's interested, then we would move forward with the second phase.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the next IR is a priority repair program policy updates. Casey's still here to answer any questions. And the last IR is the unimproved alley mowing program. Monique Hill from Park and Rec is here.
Councilmember Martinez.
I have a question. Is Dave here?
Monique is going to.
Monique's coming up.
I think David Lewis is spending some of that travel money.
Ah, very nice. So my question, well, first, thank you very much. Each time that we've requested that an alley be mowed, it's always been done under the 30 days that is projected. But my question is, so these blue areas on the map are included in the UAMP, or however you say it. Is there any way to alternate those every other year? Like one year the blue gets mowed, the next year the red gets mowed?
And good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm going to allow Debbie Branch, who is responsible for our program, to answer any questions.
Yeah, good afternoon. So this is the third season that Parks and Rec has been overseeing the alleyway mowing program, and your question is valid, right? Why are some in the program, some aren't? And as was explained to me when the program first came over to Parks and Rec and for FY23, I went around and surveyed everybody who had a finger in the alleyway program at all. And it was explained to me that the alleyway program was really started as a safe neighborhood initiative. So it wasn't necessarily just to get the alleys mowed, but it was also to increase neighborhood safety, and they were identified with conversations between police and code, as explained to me. I could not find anybody originally in those conversations, and so we are looking at ways, because we would say if I'm next door to an alley that's in the program and mine's not, it's like makes you scratch your head and say, well, why can't I be in the program too, right? So we are looking at creative ways, and that may be something, but since those alleys were selected as part of Safe Neighborhood, but maybe it's just time to completely look at the alleyways, or, currently it's a quarterly program. When does it make sense to, move that to, identify alleys that could sustain a 3 times a year, to free up funds to add more alleys, and so forth. So, but it's a valid question.
Okay, well, just an idea to consider. But since you guys are up here, I don't know if either of you can speak to this. Each council member has a hat. Meadowbrook Golf Course is set to open this summer. And I know this is supposed to be a duck, and it's the new logo. So if y'all can explain that new logo.
I have it. I'm sorry, I left my little note. I'll get it just a second.
Come back just a second.
My apologies. I didn't expect that question soon. Okay, so yes, so Meadowbrook Golf Course will be opening soon. We should have an actual date for the opening pretty quickly. So what you have there is the new logo for that course, which is the black-bellied whistling duck. And so I was like, I would just refer to it as a bird, so I'm glad I asked the experts about it. So apparently over in the area at that golf course, you see this little bird a lot. And so because they saw it, people in the community wanted to make sure that they have that there. So it has become the new logo for that particular golf course. So when you see that emblem or that logo, that is representing Meadowbrook, because it actually is in the habitats in that area. So we hope you'll come visit. We'll make sure you all get an invitation.
Thank you. And I really love the new logo, so y'all did a great job.
Good, thank you.
In relation to alleyways, one of the questions, my colleague to my left here boasted that his alleyways are paved in his district, and I'm not asking us to pave our alleyways because we don't have the money, but I would be interested, and I think a future IR and an intellectual exercise for us as a city to really take a look at how much it would cost for us to gravel, like large gravel these alleyways so that we don't have to go back and keep mowing them and that they remain easily accessed to our residents. I imagine that cost is not inexpensive, but as you start to add up the mowing that we spend annually on that, I think chipping away at a reoccurring cost is probably beneficial. So if you could maybe take a creative look at some ways to reduce our need to mow on those alleys would be great.
I'll go ahead.
No, go ahead. Councilmember Beck, we'll look into what those other options or alternatives are.
So I'm looking at this IR. I kind of wanted a more of an overview because I don't know if this is the IR that you guys gave that I requested about mowing of the alleys, but I kind of needed a more overview of what I'm looking at. As Jeanette Martinez articulated, some are being mowed and some are not. Can you kind of give me an overview of this?
Sure, yeah, very valid question. And just so you know, too, to get the alleyways visible on this IR, there's a really good website. So if you just Google Fort Worth alley mowing, it'll pull it up, and there's an interactive map where you can put in any address in Fort Worth, and it'll tell you whether it's in the program or out of the program. So the alleyway mowing program has a long history in Fort Worth, and at one point it was with TPW. Code kind of oversaw part of it. I think it had been in parks a long time ago. Then it went to neighborhood services. So before Casey was there, it went to neighborhood services, and so I oversee the contract mowing for right-of-ways and medians. And so then in '23 it came to us, and we just continued running the program how it had been handed off to us. And as I spoke before, it was started as a safe neighborhood initiative, and so certain alleys were identified by a select group, as was told to me, by maybe police department staff and maybe code, but they would identify these safe neighborhoods, and some alleys were in the program and some weren't. And so if you're not in the program, you can request a one-time annual mowing of your alleyway, and we have a goal. We try to get there within 30 days of the request, but it's an unfunded request, so it's our staff's trying to fit it in as they can get to it, and they get to it and they mow it. If you're not in the program, you're allowed or you're encouraged to mow to the center point of the alley, which is basically your easement behind your home. Yeah, that's specifically the program. The program covers mowing, tree trimming, limbing up the trees, and string trimming.
Okay, if I'm looking at page, I guess this is page 2 of 4, and well, let me look at page 3 or 4. That's where more of District 8 is. So the blue represents?
It represents alleys that are in the program.
And the red represents the alleys that are not in the program?
Correct.
And so if these alleys are not in the program, the city of Fort Worth do not mow?
We do not, it's not scheduled for mowing, no.
Okay, but they can request a one-time annually
Correct.
to be mowed?
Correct.
Okay, how often are the ones in the blue mowed?
Quarterly.
Quarterly. And then the ones that are not in the mowing, do the city of Fort Worth provide a stipend or money towards if they mow it up to the property line?
No, that's not done. No.
Okay, so we tell them that they can mow a city property and we don't provide resources for
As
it.
I understand it, it's like the easement in front of your house,
Sure.
the right of way, right? You're supposed to mow to the edge of curb. The city does own that part to the edge of curb, but you are per city code, you're supposed to mow that, as I understand it. Same thing in the alleyways. To the edge of the middle of alley is part of the easement behind your house, so.
Okay. This is another process, something I think that the city of Fort Worth need to publicize in our news and our media. But I'm going to look at that link that you just told me about so I can make sure, because I have had a lot of people complain about the alleys not being mowed, so maybe they're not in the program.
And some of them, I know your office asked about one particular alley, and our contractor was running a couple weeks behind, and so I think with once a quarter in that spring mow, it had gotten kind of high, but it has been mowed now, so.
With that, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think I asked also, how many contracts do we have for mowing?
We currently have 2 contractors mowing alleyways.
Okay. And would it benefit the city to, is it too much for them to get to? Why are they so behind? Because I think this is happening year in, year out.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on staffing. You know, those frontline workers have been hard for city staff to hire, as well as outside contractors, as well as weather. You know, when you get the rains, a lot of those alleys become more difficult to mow. So those are the 2 main reasons: is staffing and weather.
Last question. Do we know when those contracts are up? Are they up annually?
Yep, they actually no renewals at the end of this year, so we'll be going to bid the coming up year, so in the fall.
Okay. Well, can we get an IR on the contracts that we have already?
On the 2 contracts we have?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our IRs, Mayor.
Thank you, Jay. I'll move into presentations. Before that, we'll do any changes or requests on memberships, boards, commissions, zoning cases, or MNC log that we need to make staff aware of. Okay, next up is the Southeast Connector Project update. Lauren Prier will kick things off.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you again for the opportunity to discuss the Southeast Connector project. So today's presentation will be led by Nick Andershak from South Point Constructors, alongside Prapti Sharma and Brandon Bybee from TxDOT. You'll notice the bright orange.
Yeah, you can't miss them back
Can't
there.
miss them. They'll be providing key updates on project progress, as well as upcoming milestones and community outreach efforts. So let's get started.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Yeah, so I'm Nick Andershak, and I am the Public Information Coordinator for South Point Constructors. We're the contractor building this Southeast Connector project for TxDOT. Today I'm going to provide a brief update on the status of the project. I'll go over the limits as well as the schedule, and then I'm going to break it down into some of our active segments. We'll look at work year to date and then what we can expect for the remainder of 2025. So this here is the map. Everything in that dark blue is the existing Southeast Connector project. So on Interstate 820 on the north end, we go all the way up to Brentwood Stair Road, which incorporates segment 1 north and south down to about Berry Street. Segment 3 from Berry Street down to about Sun Valley Drive and then north of Village Creek Road. Segment 4 is kind of that 820 interchange. Those are the 3 segments that are within Fort Worth. Segment 5 is in City Forest Hill. From around the railroad sort of to Forest Hill Drive. And then segment 6 and 8 are Arlington, which has that 287 interchange and carries down to Sublet Road. Here is the timeline of the project. We're right there in the middle of 2025, so we're well out of the design phase and into that bulk of heavy construction. So 2025, 2026 are going to be those years where we have a lot of work happening, a lot of roadways opening, a lot of roads closing. So the date that everybody's interested in on there is substantial completion, which is in February of 2028. The difference between substantial completion and the final acceptance, the substantial completion is when for the most part, everything is open for its intended use. All the roadways, all the ramps are opened. The final acceptance is kind of the bells and whistles and paperwork side of things. So February of 2028 is the date that we're looking at. I'll roll into segment 1, which is that northern section in Fort Worth from Brentwood Stair Road south to Berry Street. Work to date in 2025. You can see in the picture on the left, we've moved all the frontage road traffic between Meadowbrook Drive and Brentwood Stair up adjacent to the highway lanes, separated by concrete barrier. It allows us to open up the work areas on either side. I wonder if I've got a laser pointer on this. It's not showing up on the screen. But it has all that outside room for us to work, and then eventually it would switch and we'd start working in the middle again. We've also already paved all of the permanent pavement concrete for the frontage roads between Berry and Ramey, northbound and southbound, as well as some heavy construction both at the intersections of Berry and Ramey themselves. Upcoming in segment 1, we do have a lot of work to finish off this year here, especially this summer. So first thing that folks will see will be the northbound frontage road between Rosedale and Lancaster. Will close for construction. We've met with a lot of these neighborhood associations already. They're aware of this upcoming. They know all the detours. They also have my contact information if anything comes up and they have some concerns. Also in the late summer, we're going to be demolishing the Craig Street Bridge for reconstruction. So when that bridge closes, it'll be closed for approximately 1 year, and then it will open up into the permanent alignment with all the improvements associated with the project. On the right side picture there shows Lancaster Avenue. This one is also going to be demolished this summer for reconstruction, but this one's a little bit different because there's the two portions of the bridge. We're going to switch traffic onto the eastbound section in a head-to-head configuration that allows us to demolish and build the westbound side, and then we'll flip-flop. And then another big one, if you guys drive the area frequently, this summer we're going to switch the northbound 820 traffic onto that center median. So if you see all the big wooden walls, wire walls in there with that concrete being paved, later this summer we're going to have the northbound traffic onto that new concrete.
I drive that area frequently because that's in my district, and so I would tell you some of it is a little bit scary. So we either need to slow the traffic down, and I don't know how we work with the state on that, but it gets pretty scary trying to get onto the freeway there, and just a little bit concerned that, I'm really grateful that we haven't had any accidents, but I'm a little bit concerned that we will.
Yeah, absolutely. This project is going to solve a lot of those problems. Right now it's a lot of left exits and merges. So in the final condition, that will all be solved. Temporary, just due to the fact of having to move traffic around. Some of the ramps change locations, some of the turns might not be as visible, which I understand. So we do try and stay on top of it as best as we can. It's a very large project, so occasionally there's areas that we don't notice until the neighborhoods reach out to us. But if they do reach out with some key locations, I'm happy to go out there with our maintenance and traffic manager, add some additional signage. I met with the Meadowbrook folks recently. They had requested some of those red flags on the yield signs in the temporary configuration just to make it more visible. We're happy to comply. So wherever we can help, we will look at it. Moving a little bit south to segment 3 here. Kind of the same deal. We're paving all the permanent frontage roads with the concrete between Wilbarger Street and Berry Street. We've finished it northbound. We'll finish it southbound by the end of this month. Northbound US 287 traffic is onto the new concrete underneath the Village Creek Road Bridge, which we opened to traffic in April of 2024. The picture on the right shows Carey Street from May 20th. We've completed the intersections adjacent to 287, both on the north and south side there of the highway. That's all the new pavement and is open full capacity there, as well as the southbound US 287 frontage road from Village Creek all the way down to Martin Street. Upcoming in this segment here is a lot more frontage road work. So we're looking in the fall, by the fall, to have northbound and southbound frontage roads paved and open to traffic connecting Sun Valley Drive and Martin Street. That will incorporate the intersections, all 4 of them there at Martin Street and Sun Valley Drive. You can see in the picture we do have the Martin Street intersection west of 820 already opened and paved, but kind of hand in hand with this frontage road pavement, we'll have those other intersections opened as well. Same deal in segment 4. We're doing a lot of paving. So the picture on the left is the new concrete frontage road heading southbound between Sun Valley Drive and Business 287. That picture shows one of the lanes, but we do have both of them in there now, waiting on a couple more phases before we can put traffic onto it. And then northbound between Village Creek Waterway all the way up to Sun Valley Drive, we're going to start paving that next week, so that's coming up quick. Last but not least, the picture on the right shows some frontage road bridges that we plan to build over top of the Union Pacific Railroad right there. Right now, folks, local traffic need to merge onto Interstate 20 to get over that railroad. This project will add frontage road bridges east and westbound over top of the railroad, so a lot of folks can have some more local mobility there. The picture shows all of those columns already poured. Since then, we do have most of those caps on there, and they're waiting for girders. Coming up here, we're going to open up that frontage road southbound between Sun Valley Drive and Business 287 this fall, as well as the intersections at Business 287. I know a lot of folks have concerns. That's a really highly congested intersection. So when this does open in its new alignment, there'll be designated turn lanes. The signals will be revisited. So that should really, really reduce the congestion that we see, especially during peak rush hours. Also this fall, we're going to demolish the Sun Valley Drive Bridge for reconstruction. Same as all the other bridges that we take down. So once it closes and is demolished, it'll take about a year to rebuild up. And when it's back up, it'll have all of those permanent improvements from the project. And then also in the fall, we'll have the eastbound direction over top of the railroad there, connecting Forest Hill to Fort Worth and Arlington. Segment 5 is in the city of Forest Hill, and a lot of this work is on and around the Anglin Drive Bridge. The picture on the left there shows us getting ready to build the new highway lanes outside of where the highway is now, so between the current main lanes and the frontage roads, which will allow us to then switch traffic to the outside and work on the inside. The photo on the right shows Anglin Drive north of Interstate 20. That has been paved and open to traffic now. Folks who are familiar with that area might know that it used to be that kind of jug handle movement where you'd go against traffic. This is a lot safer, and when Anglin Drive Bridge itself gets rebuilt, it's going to connect the north and southbound quite well. Which brings me to another bridge coming down this summer, which is the Anglin Drive Bridge. Later this summer, we'll take that one down again for a year and then reopen it up in its permanent future condition. We'll also have the east and westbound Interstate 20 traffic onto the new pavement this fall. Segment 6 in Arlington, work to date. So we've moved Little Road traffic into a new location temporarily. We've also opened up, the picture on the right there shows it, the eastbound 20 ramp, the collector distributor to southbound US 287. And then of course the westbound 20 frontage road traffic from Little Road all the way to Bowman Springs, which we're looking at on the left there. Upcoming this year in segment 6, the Bowman Springs Road bridge demolition, we actually completed half of it, so the northbound section over the westbound lanes last weekend, and then this weekend we'll demolish the portion over the eastbound lanes. We're also going to finish up the eastbound I-20 frontage road that will connect Business 287 all the way to Little Road. The picture on the right shows it right now. We do have traffic on a portion of it already. You can see the merge there from the existing frontage road to the new one, but this summer we're looking to have it fully connected from Business 287 all the way to Little Road. And then I'm going to jump back a slide, but the northbound US 287 to westbound I-20 ramp, that'll open up this summer. You could see it on the left picture kind of running adjacent to the frontage road there, but that'll be another big interchange ramp opening and a huge milestone for the project. I will leave it up here for the public information slide. This is how folks can get a hold of me. The phone number, the email, all come directly to me if anybody has any questions. I would also encourage folks to sign up at the bottom there for the text alerts, SEC to that number. We reserve that for full highway closures or maybe incidents that happen that we respond to that impacts traffic. That way, if you're driving to work in the morning, you know ahead of time, hey, some lanes might be closed on the highway. But I'll open it up to questions here if anybody has anything.
Questions from council? No. Thank you very much for the updates.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Landfill Gas Republic Southeast Landfill Lease Agreement Amendment. Dr. Wittenberg.
So good afternoon again. I'm excited to bring you an update on our landfill gas project and to talk about our next steps to move the project forward. So perfect. So as we talk about this project, you may recall last August we were able to move forward with an agreement from City Council to start negotiating the contract for this particular project at our Southeast landfill. Just to give you a quick recap of what we discussed at that time, We want to walk you through just the fact that this is a citywide project, and there's been so many departments that have helped us. Special thanks to our law department and property management, others that have helped us. Also to our consulting partners, Burns and McDonnell, Adrian Galvan, Innova, Porter Hedges. Many partners have helped us to get to this point in this project. And then, of course, to Republic Services, our landfill operator, who has been operating since 2003, has been a tremendous partner as well. Just a recap, we received some understanding of our existing contract back in August of 2023. Last August, we of course came to you and received that council action to move forward with this particular contractor. Again, this is with Archaea, which is a company within the BP company portfolio. And as we move into this fall, we're getting very close to completing this agreement and hopefully getting to the groundbreaking ceremony for that particular facility. So what you're going to see today is just some steps that need to be taken with our landfill operator, again, Republic Services, to move the project forward. Today we'll have this update, and then next week on June 10th, we will have a council action for Amendment 6 with Republic Services to enter into a sublease and to move the mutual agreement forward for this particular project. Just to recap on the financials related to the RNG project, there are 4 lines of revenue related to our project. A certain amount due at signing, and then for the couple of years that it takes to construct the RNG facility, we will receive a development fee for this particular project. Once the project is constructed, we'll receive a 30% split for those royalties and RINs or other attributes related to the landfill, and there's also some tax credits involved. So all in all, once the project is fully operational, we should see between $2 and $5 million annually coming from the project. Just as a reminder, there is 0 investment from the City of Fort Worth. This is a developer-led project. So recapping with all of that, our next step is really the red box that you see here. We have to move forward with an agreement with Republic to receive an Amendment 6 for that mutual agreement for the joint venture, if you will, between the city and Republic to move this project forward. On the right side of the agreement, that was what was approved in August. On the bottom part of the triangle, you see that there will be a sublease between Republic and Archaea to advance the project. And again, the council action next week is for this Amendment number 6 with Republic. A few highlights from Amendment number 6, it changes some key terms and conditions of that contract. It clarifies that the city has the sole title for landfill gas. It extends the operation agreement, which is currently set to end in 2033, out to 2036, consistent with when we expect for the Southeast landfill to close. It also addresses landfill liquids and making sure we understand how to address those should we have an issue with arsenic or other naturally occurring conditions that create a hazardous condition for those landfill liquids that need to be disposed of. And then we move into the operation of the Southeast landfill. We have to secure that sublease with Republic and Archaea. And then finally, we were able to work with Republic to secure a timeline for our landfill environmental fees. Each year, we bring this forward as a part of the master fee schedule. And I think we have a good plan to move forward. Again, all these details will be a part of the M&C next week. So just in closing, next week we would ask for council action consideration on approving Amendment number 6 and authorizing the city manager to execute all related agreements. Again, that is on June 10th next week. And then from there, we will hopefully move the project forward. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Wittenberg? No. Thank you, Cody. Next is the West Side Tax Increment Financing Update with Michael Henning, Economic Development.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I recognize that it's been a busy day, so I'll do my best to keep this brief. So Michael Henning, Economic Development Manager. So we wanted to go ahead and bring back to you an item that we discussed here recently, which is a proposed new TIF district on the Near West Side. And as you recall, we discussed that on May 6th at the work session on that day. And the general purpose of the TIF would be to address infrastructure needs that are currently impeding new development from being able to take place within that district. And also through doing so, to be able to attract new private investment that can help to be able to support this area of town. And then also the purpose of the TIF is to support the historic preservation of Farrington Field, as well as adjacent development nearby. Now, as you recall from that last meeting, there was a request from City Council to reconsider just the boundaries that we were proposing for that district, as well as some of the funding prioritization. So we just wanted to give you a little bit of an update here today as we have addressed those items. So taking those in turn, so specifically the boundaries of the proposed TIF have been adjusted, taking into consideration some of the feedback that we received at that last meeting, and really kind of filling in some of the gap that had been presented to you before. So this would allow for the collection of increment from the whole of the proposed district to really be able to address a wider set of the stormwater improvements that are necessary to be addressed throughout the district, which can be better illustrated on this map here. And as we discussed in some detail last time, as you can see here, there's pretty pervasive stormwater issues that have been impeding development throughout this portion of Fort Worth for many years. And as you can imagine, there's a significant cost that's associated with that. And so the proposed TIF is staff's recommended way for helping, at least in part, to be able to address some of these issues. Now, as was presented before, another key component of this proposed TIF would be to support the historic preservation of Farrington Field and to be able to explore opportunities to activate some of the surrounding properties through new development. Now, the proposed rates of participation are the same as what we had presented to you before. We are continuing to recommend that the city participate at a rate of 50%. And we are requesting participation from the county, from the College District, and from the Water District, as well as Fort Worth ISD, all at rates of 35%. And again, just to be a little more precise, the participation by Fort Worth ISD is made possible by the inclusion of a school facility within this district and the likelihood of utilizing this TIF to be able to support improvements to that facility. Now, with the changes to the proposed boundaries, this does include a wider set of properties than what we had presented to you before. This, of course, doesn't impact in any particular way the taxes that are paid by the owners of that property, but it does increase the base of this proposed TIF district, and that has an impact on the revenue that is projected to be generated by the TIF. And so what you see here are updated long-term lifetime projections for this TIF district. And you can see here that over the proposed 20-year span, the city is projected to contribute approximately $151 million to the TIF, in combination with those other participants, that would amount to just under $261 million if all participants were to agree to participate. Now, again, that is subject to their respective boards for them to authorize their participation, either at the rates that we have proposed or at any other rate. And so we will, of course, be updating council as those conversations continue. But we just wanted to go ahead and, again, round out and update the picture based on that change to the boundaries. Given the fact that only a portion of the tax increment generated by this district would be contributed to the TIF, then, of course, the remainder would continue to flow to these respective entities. And you can see here that that would amount to approximately $1 billion worth of tax revenue that is projected to be generated over this time. Now, in addressing some of the feedback that we received and that relates to the prioritization of TIF funding towards specific projects, you can see here what staff is now recommending be reflected in the project and financing plan for this TIF, with a proposed $150 million being proposed for supporting stormwater and flood control improvements. Now, again, I just want to pause on that just to be clear that the intent there is to really reflect just the broader set of issues that we know are at play and just the pervasiveness of stormwater infrastructure that needs to be addressed over many years. And so after discussing previously, we tend to agree that this is a better reflection of the items that are likely to be addressed through this TIF. Now, as we walked through before, all funding decisions and all projects that would be funded by the TIF are ultimately going to require individual TIF board approval. So what we're presenting here is our current projection and our general expectation as to where those funds would be allocated. But individual budget decisions, individual project decisions would be subject to TIF board approval if and when that is created. So just to, again, draw a little bit of a comparison as to how both the revenue that is projected to be generated by the different taxing entities, which you can see here on the graph on the right, compares to the funding that the TIF would be capable of supporting if these projections are able to be maintained and given the proposed participation rates. And so you can see here, again, it is an updated view that reflects the feedback that we've received before, as well as our current expectations for how the TIF would be used. So if council does choose to go forward, then the timeline from here would be for an M&C and a public hearing to take place on at the June 10th City Council meeting. After that, then with, of course, the creation of the TIF board and the appointment of a chair, which we're also expecting at that meeting, then we would go through and work with the other taxing entities to secure their participation in this proposed TIF. And with that, we would then be able to stand up the board and hold its first meeting to be able to consider the first couple of projects that might be brought before it. And so it's currently our expectation that that work is work that would be done over the summer and getting on into early fall. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Michael? Councilmember Hill?
Thank you, Michael. Quick question. Can you go back to the stormwater and flooding depths chart? And I think we touched on this last time, but you'll have to refresh my memory. So the two areas, the top on the west side, on the east side, that have the most flooding, it looks like, why were those not included in the TIF boundaries?
Yes, Councilmember. So that section that is on the northeast portion of this map, you might be able to actually see it a little better here. That is already located within an existing TIF district, and so we're unable to be able to include that within the boundaries of this TIF. Now, there's the possibility of being able to use this TIF to be able to support certain improvements outside of the district if we're able to demonstrate that it has a positive benefit and direct benefit to this TIF district. So that could be something we could explore in the future. But the purpose for the boundaries being carved out the way that it is just to reflect the existing TIF 9, the Trinity River Vision TIF that is there.
That's the cemetery, I guess.
Yes, and so the portion that's to the northwest, kind of toward the left-hand of your screen, that's the cemetery.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Thank you, Michael. Council, that's the conclusion of our presentations today. Are there requests for future agenda items from council?
You got my two already, right? All right.
Yes, sir.
Jay got mine.
Councilmember Beck.
I would like, in light of our conversation earlier about the cast iron pipe replacement, maybe a presentation as opposed to an IR on that program. I know they've done it before, but specifically what I really want us to hone in on this time. I think we understand the number of the number of miles we do annually and where that funding comes from, but I really want to understand the interplay between TPW and water. Who pays for what can and can't be paid for by each department, what kind of coordinating you do, because I'm going to go back to the fact that West 7th was just redone, within my lifetime here on council in the past 3 years, and we are about to go dig that back up to replace a water line, and that is infuriating.
Any other council future updates or agenda items? No? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.